Sweetheart, come here. Tony and I love each other. But like friends, not like married people.
But what's the difference?
S-E-X.
Oh, is that all? Then why don't you just have that and get it over with?
Yeah, why don't you?
Good night, Sam.
Good night, Dad.
Good night.
Good night, Mom.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to
Hey, whoa, monsieur.
the Who's the Boss podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Tori,
I'm Kevin.
and we are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss. Tonight, I don't have any news. Do you have any news?
No. When do we have news?
We never have news. Plus, we just did an episode last night, so if we didn't have any news last night, we
don't
don't have any news today.
I wonder why there's nothing about the show.
I don't know. You know what? Okay, wait. I have a tiny bit of news. So, Mary Lou Henner, this is going to be a spoiler for you and possibly some other people, will be in an episode later this year. And you know how she has that, like, crazy memory where she can remember everything?
Right.
So, right now she's doing cameos on that website, cameo.com, for a charity. And someone asked her about her time doing an episode of Who's the Boss. Mm-hmm. So she recounted it, and then she's still really good friends with Tony Danza. So she said that she spoke to him over Thanksgiving and that they were discussing the reboot, and so she was hoping that maybe her character would come back. I think she was kind of just joking, but... So if she talked to him over Thanksgiving and they talked about the reboot, then maybe we'll hear something at some point soon.
Yeah, it just seemed like it had a lot of steam and then nothing.
Yeah, but there's a pandemic and everything shut down, and then...
Yeah, that's true.
Well, everything was shut down. But the elections, Alyssa Milano was very busy saving the world.
I know, Yeah.
So once she has a break from that, then we can get to Who's the Boss.
Okay, all right. I believe you.
So tonight we're going to do Season 2, Episode 17. It's called Johnathan Plays Cupid, and it first aired on February 11th, 1986. So as I mentioned in the last episode, if you're watching this on Amazon... Episode 17 is When Worlds Collide, but based on the TV Guide air dates and other air dates, I believe that this is the correct order and that Amazon is wrong.
Well, what's the one that Amazon has second?
When Worlds Collide is
what's the air date on that? I wonder. Because the air date for this one is 2 weeks after the last one.
February 18th.
Okay, yeah, they must have just skipped a week.
Maybe because of the Challenger?
Maybe. They go on Challenger night, but then they skip the following week.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure
they have bye week, or they not bye weeks, but is that what is it called when they just skip a week?
Not being on a week.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
Anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, now I lost my spot. Okay, so the summary for this episode is Johnathan arranges to have Tony and Angela meet on a romantic blind date, hoping they'll fall in love and get married. This episode is written by Paul Robinson Hunter. So, this is his final episode of Who's the Boss, and I remember he wrote one of my least favorites, which is Tony the Matchmaker. But he had 4 episodes, and the first one was Requiem. Mm-hmm. Samantha's Growing Up.
Okay.
Tony the Matchmaker, which we did not enjoy. I did not enjoy. Uh-huh. And then Johnathan Plays Cupid, which I do enjoy.
Yeah.
And so that is the end of his Who's the Boss run. But 3 solid episodes. Okay, so when this episode opens, once again, Tony is coming out of that little room.
I know. I have my note. Tiny room where he almost hits his head.
Tony has to pee a lot because I'm guessing that's the bathroom. But it must also be where the basement stairs are. Like, there must be a hallway that leads to a couple of different things back there.
Yeah, I mean, the house has to go back that way, some way, shape, or form. Because there's an upstairs that goes over that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So there's got to be a whole back of the house.
But no, maybe the upstairs goes over the living room. I mean,
it looks like they go upstairs and run back.
Oh, you're right, because the house...
There's no the living room goes up.
Oh, yeah, it's like vaulted ceilings.
Yeah.
Okay, TV house floor plans are a disaster anyway. But then...
The upstairs goes out to maybe over the garage.
I mean, the
garage is separate.
Yeah, but the only thing behind that fireplace we're led to believe is Angela's office. So she would have to have, like...
So the office is back there, the entrance to the basement, and a bathroom that Tony spends a lot of time in. All right.
And the little tiny doorway that he barely fits through.
Yeah, okay.
Like he's a giant.
Like he almost hits his head on.
Yeah. So as he's coming out of the bathroom, a mailman is shoving mail through the mail slot. And it's just a ton of Valentine's Day cards. So Sam comes downstairs and she sees what's happening. And she's like, "Oh, is that the mail?" And Tony says, "Are you expecting something special?" And she says, "Well, it is almost Valentine's Day." As he's going through, they're all for Mona. But he does find one that's addressed to Sam. She's all excited until she reads it and she says, "Oh, I love you too, Dad."
I like that Tony took the time to send a card to her, drop it in the mail so it can come right back again. Right. How does that work? So you go to the post office?
I don't know. That's cute. So she asks, "Are you sure there isn't anything else in there for me?" And he does find another one. So now Sam's very excited. And she smells it and she gets really excited. So it must smell like some sort of boy cologne. And she says it's from Chad McCann. Tony smells it. He thinks it smells terrible. And he says, "Keep it away from an open flame." So I have a feeling that Chad looks like the type of guy who's probably wearing too much cologne.
Middle school D-bag cologne. What is it?
So, what was the cologne back then?
I don't know. I mean, I remember Drakkar.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember.
This might have been more like Canoe, if anybody remembers Canoe.
I don't know what that is.
You don't? Oh, look it up. Canoe.
Okay.
Canoe cologne.
Now, Angela comes out from her office, which is behind the fireplace, which must be 1,700 square feet if the rest of the house can sit on top of it. And she says, "Oh, is that the mail? Is there anything for me?" And he looks through. He's like, "Oh, yeah, here's one for you." She opens it up, and it's from Southern Connecticut Gas Company.
I know, it's funny. She says Southern Connecticut Gas, didn't forget.
No. And here starts the joke that Angela doesn't have any Valentine. So Tony has an obnoxious number of Valentine's Day cards to go give to Mona. And he's like, "I'm going to go give these to her." Now, I mean... has anyone ever really received this? Like, this is all just a joke. Like, who would really get that many Valentine's Day cards?
Mona, I guess.
Do people really send Valentine's cards to just people they kind of know or like?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Makes for an episode.
It's so silly.
Maybe it was an 80s thing that I missed out on. I don't remember Valentine's card
I know
coming in the mail except from, like, maybe my grandmother or something.
Right. So Johnathan comes in, and with him is Stephen. So Stephen, we may remember him from It Happened One Summer, parts 1 and 2. His name is Christopher Burton.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he was one of the boys in the camp.
Oh, yeah. Except he was probably less of a jerk.
Maybe.
No,
I think he was kind of a jerk then too. Yeah. But Christopher Burton is the one that we had mentioned in the last episode that he left acting and became a pastor. So he is no longer an actor.
Or a jerk, maybe.
This is, hopefully not. And this is the last episode that Stephen will be in.
Oh, okay. So he goes by the way of Jonathan's father. And...
Yeah. And all the snakes and reptiles. Yeah. So Jonathan's excited because they have qualified for a tournament, a golf tournament.
Okay.
But he needs a partner. And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, you guys can play together." And he's like, "No, it's a junior-senior tournament." So Stephen's going to be playing with his dad. And Johnathan wants to know, like, if his dad can come play with him. And she's, like, trying to cushion the blow here, saying, well, your dad lives in California now, and he's remarried.
Right. He doesn't have time for you, kid.
Right. And
pretty much what she says.
Yeah. But, like, she's not... So, the tournament must be soon because she doesn't ask, like, doesn't check with him to see if he could fly out for it. Or he doesn't have any relationship with his dad. Like, it's not clear. It's never clear again as to whether or not
Right.
Johnathan ever sees Michael again.
Right.
Like, we don't, the show would be on hiatus during the summer. So I guess, like, during the summer, he could go fly out to California for a month and you just never see it because that would be a hard storyline to have on a show, and it doesn't matter to the storyline. So either he had a relationship with his dad that we never saw on screen, or he never saw his dad again.
Yeah, we'll never know.
So, yeah. So Steven's like, your dad's a no-show, Bauer.
I know. I'm telling you, this kid.
I know. He's like, who's the other one? Richard Wellington?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a little Richard Wellington in the making. So Angela says she'll play with him, which is probably the worst thing that this kid wants to hear right now. He does not want his mom when everybody else is going to be playing with their dads.
Right. And he says, Mom, you're not my dad.
Right. But Tony comes back in from giving Mona her 56 Valentine's Day cards, and he overhears what's going on. And he steps up and says, I'll play with you. And Jonathan's very excited about that.
Yep.
Because now not only does he have a dad figure to play with, but he figures he could win because he's Tony. So he does say, okay, that's great, but I want to win. And he asks Tony, have you played golf? He's like, no. But I was a professional ball player, and this ball doesn't even move. It's not even moving. So it's funny because later on in the series, Tony becomes a golfer. Maybe this is where he gets his start.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So now the next day, Sam and Mona are in the kitchen counting their copious amounts of Valentine's Day cards while Angela sits there with nothing.
I know. And then starts into one of her stories.
I know. And she says, I must have been in the 8th or 9th grade, and I got this gigantic card from a secret admirer.
And immediately, Mona just burst the bubble.
I know.
Your father sent that to you.
Yeah, I can't let her have it. It was the 9th, what did she say? It was the 9th grade.
Right.
Your dad and I sent that.
All right, just completely makes her feel bad as usual.
Yeah. So when Sam's counting hers, she knows that she has 24. So she's 1 ahead of Marcy, 3 behind Robin.
Oh, right.
But let's just not portray these kind of storylines on TV. Like, let's not have girls competing with each other for how many Valentine's Day cards they're getting. It was the 80s, yeah. So Angela gets all upset and gets up from the table. Now,
to the mom.
Oh yeah, and Mona's still counting, and she says, "I'm hoping to break 3 digits."
Yeah, triple digits. Really? You got over 100 cards? What have you been doing?
I know. So Johnathan comes in with a little ridiculous golf outfit on.
I know.
And Tony comes in right behind him wearing a matching one. So they're going to be super cute. But you know what I realized?
You never see anything.
There's no resolution to the storyline at all.
You know, it's so funny that you said that when I'm watching this episode tonight. Before we started, I'm like, oh, I remember this one. We watched it recently, before we started the podcast. And as I'm watching, I'm like, I actually don't remember this episode.
Oh.
And I was kind of excited to see how they shoot the golf scene.
Yeah,
and then nothing.
Nothing.
And it just goes away.
Yeah, that probably should have been the tag of the episode at least.
Right,
Okay.
they come in, oh, that was great, or whatever,
Right.
we tried.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, they never play golf. And the little SOB, what's his name? Competitive.
Steven. Yeah, he's gone forever. Yeah. So later that day, Johnathan and Steven are in the living room, and they're practicing putting. Johnathan's still wearing the outfit. Do you think Tony's somewhere still wearing his outfit?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, even with the putting in the living room, again, it leads me to believe there's going to be some resolution to this golf.
You're getting excited for the big golf scene at the end.
Never.
And so they're talking about it. Steven's like, me and my dad are going to win this. And then Johnathan says, me and Tony are too. But wouldn't only one set be able to win this?
Oh, yeah.
Poor Johnathan. So, and Jonathan's like, we're going to play every year. And Steven says, well, what makes you think Tony's going to be around every year? He's your housekeeper, and housekeepers can quit. So,
and I think he called him a twerp at some point in there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, constantly.
Probably.
He called him a twerp twice.
Oh.
I don't like this kid.
I know. He says his housekeeper just quit because her brother became president of the country she is from.
I know. I almost thought maybe that was a little, I don't want to say racist, but, borderline.
Yeah, I mean, It's fine, I think.
know, I guess
just
so,
saying,
yeah.
I want to actually know this story. Like this seems, I want to see this played out on TV. She's a housekeeper, and then her brother becomes president of whatever country she's from.
She's out. I'm out.
And then she goes home to her country, and she's
Right.
now part of the presidential family.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it sounds like a good story.
Yeah, I like that.
Jonathan's saying, well, Tony would never leave me. And Steven says, well, maybe your mom would fire him. He says, no, my mom really likes him.
Mm-hmm.
And Steven's like, well, there's your angle. Because maybe you should get your mom to marry him, and then he won't go.
He'll never leave.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So the next day is Valentine's Day. And the doorbell rings. Mona answers it. She's expecting it to be another Valentine's for her. And there's a delivery guy standing there with red roses, a delivery of red roses. And that actor is Richard Lewis Klein, and this is his only credit.
Really? Ever?
Yeah, ever. And he's not a crew member or like a writer, producer, in any other capacity. So I don't know if this was the one time this man got to be on TV, and then
he just gave up.
He gave up, or he
threw himself off a bridge.
No, that's terrible.
No, I don't know. I don't know. He's alive, right?
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Oh,
Hopefully
okay.
he's like a lawyer or something somewhere. But yeah, so no other credits. So he either gave up, or he just decided he wasn't going to do it, or he just did it as a fluke, because it's the one thing. So Mona's excited until she reads the card, and she realizes that it's for Angela. So she throws the flowers at her into her lap.
Like, why not for once just be excited for your daughter? Oh,
No.
dear, you got flowers.
Not Mona. Nope,
they're not for
that's
me
not
to
how it
throw
works.
them at her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Angela reads
Real
the
nice.
card, and it says, dinner tonight, Chez Renee, 8 o'clock, what do you say? And she's wondering, like, I wonder who could have sent this.
Mm-hmm.
And Mona says, well, it wasn't Robert Browning, who I looked up and was a poet, and he died in 1889.
Yeah,
Nothing
so she's
really.
commenting on how terrible the little poem was.
Yeah. So Jonathan comes downstairs, and he says, maybe it's someone who really likes you. And Mona and Angela guess that it could possibly be this French man that she met at a party the Saturday before.
Ooh.
So Angela's wondering, like, oh, would he have really done something so, forward like this?
Right.
And Mona says, you don't get a kiss named, they didn't get a kiss named after them for nothing.
Right. And then the crowd goes
Right.
crazy, the audience.
Yes, those French people. So Jonathan asks if she's going to go. Angela isn't sure. Mona tells her, just go for the cheap thrill for one time. But didn't she already do that in Hunk of the Month?
I guess so, yeah. And Mona gave her the same advice.
Right. So Jonathan encourages her to go. He says, you
I
never...
know, he's excited. He's like, you going to go?
Right. Yeah, well, because he's got a lot riding on this, and now a credit card. So he says, you never know, you might get lucky.
Well, whatever that means.
Right. Then by the looks on their faces, he realizes that maybe he shouldn't have said that.
Right. And he says, oh, whatever that means.
Right.
It's pretty fun.
So Angela decides that she's going to go. So then in the kitchen, Tony and Sam are in the kitchen, and Jonathan comes in and gives Tony a Valentine. So Tony also didn't get any Valentines.
Right,
It was
none.
really
Come on.
just Mona. Right.
Mona got over 100 and Tony got none.
had nothing, unless like it was a
Please.
thing where women weren't supposed to send them, which that's sexist. So he hands them one, and Tony's very excited because this is his first Valentine. So he reads the card, and it says, "You're a real hunk, the apple of my eye. Come to Chez Renee at 8. You've got to wear a tie." And the look on Sam's face is like, that is a terrible poem.
She's almost laughing.
Yeah. So Jonathan asks, like, are you going to go? And Tony's like, I don't know. A blind date could be Alpo time.
I know.
The worst joke of the whole episode. It's just funny how, like, that was completely acceptable.
To refer to a woman as a dog.
Right. And he's doing it, so he's saying this, a blind date could be Alpo time in front of a young boy and his own daughter.
I know.
But, yeah, like, I just...
Well, it gets worse in the scene.
Oh, right. Right. So then he's saying, they're like, well, maybe you know who it is. Maybe there's a clue in the poem. Mm-hmm. And he goes and says, apple. Okay, well, maybe it could be this redhead that he met at a fruit stand. She was red and delicious.
I know. To his daughter and Johnathan. This is what he's saying.
I know. I'm like, Sam has to get grossed out by her horny dad sometimes.
I know. It's like, come on.
why
She
would
was red and delicious.
So Tony says Johnathan says maybe it's someone even better. And so Tony decides he's going to go.
He's in.
Yep. So at the restaurant, Angela shows up first. She goes up to the host and says, I'm Angela Bauer. I'm here to meet a French man.
I know. And then he says, you came to the right place.
Yeah, you did. You are in a French restaurant. So now on IMDb, the host of the restaurant, or the maitre d', I guess,
Renee,
is listed as Henri. It looks like Henry, but I'm guessing it's Henri because it's French.
Interesting.
But then in the credits and in the episode, they call him Renee for Chez Renee. So we're just going to go with Renee.
Yeah.
So Angela's telling...
Because they say it several times.
Yeah. So Angela's telling Renee she doesn't normally do this kind of thing. This is something her mother would do. And he asks, is she a redhead? So I think Renee is one of Mona's Valentine's Day cards.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He
Is she a
knows
redhead?
Mona. So if you notice too, as Angela sits down, she shows off a little bit of leg. I don't think it's intentional, but like her skirt kind of comes up a bit and you see quite a bit of her leg as she sits down.
Right.
So now overconfident Tony walks in and he says he's there to make a lucky lady's Valentine wish come true.
Of course he is.
So he's also talking to Renee, and the host, he says, she's just arrived. And Tony asks, how does she look? And he says, magnificent, especially if you are a leg man.
Yeah.
So that must have been why
the legs came out.
Right.
Because they did.
Yeah. Plus, they were probably just like, we should show off Judith's legs here, just for fun.
Yeah, right.
So Tony walks up, and like, how did he know that? How did he not know that was her as soon as he saw her?
Until she turned around.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
just by the shoulder pads alone, I should have known.
Right. He sees the back of that head all the time. He knows that helmet.
I know.
So, yeah.
But the funny thing about that scene is like, wait, what does she look like? Like, if she was, ugly, was he just going to leave?
Right, yeah, that's true. This would be a tangent, but there is a very good episode of Taxi that deals with that same storyline.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
What is that?
The ice maker.
So
it's making ice.
There's an episode of Taxi, I won't get into it too much, but there's a voice messaging service that Jeff Conaway's character is using for his acting service, and somehow Judd Hirsch starts talking to her, and he gets along with her a lot, and he decides he wants to meet her, and then when he meets her, she's not at all what he was expecting, and she knew that she wasn't going to be what he was expecting, and then their storyline kind of goes from there, and she's in 2 episodes, and it was actually really well done, I thought.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he kind of does sort of like start to care for her a bit, but I don't know. Then it didn't work out. But
she jumps off a bridge.
No, we stop with the jumping off the bridge. We're gonna get notes.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so I know, right? What was he gonna do? And then also, by him saying especially if you like legs, like maybe he was just saying that because everything else from the waist up wasn't good. But Tony's all excited about the legs, so he doesn't care. I think
it's more, especially if you're a leg man.
Right. Yeah.
It's a good package. But
you're right. Was he just gonna run away?
Right. Leave.
So he goes up, and they're like, You? So Tony thinks, at this point, they're surprised to see each other. But
right.
Tony really thinks that Angela invited him. And Angela really thinks that Tony invited her.
Right.
So she's like, I don't know what to say. And he's like, though your poem said it all. And he recites it again. And it's Chez Renee, 8 o'clock, you gotta wear a tie or whatever. Right. And he's like, do you like it? And he shows her the tie, and she's like, well, I like the tie, but that's a dreadful... I did not write that dreadful poem.
Yeah, that was funny.
So he's like, you invited me, and now you're just too embarrassed to admit it. But Angela says that she did not invite him, and she still thinks he invited her. And then he's really mean here. He's like, I invited you, dream on.
Right, like he's something else. And
right, like Like
yeah, it is kind of mean.
It is mean. And at this point, I feel like he's kind of just covering up the fact that he does have a crush on her, because if we're going to get to where we are at the end of the second season, he already likes her. So he's just kind of trying to play it off and play it cool.
Well, then he's just doing what like a jerk, like boy would do. Like
right.
A teenager.
Yeah, right.
Be mean.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't know what else to do.
Idiot. So we'll let it slide. So they both realize that they didn't invite each other. And they're like, well, what are we doing here? So they call Renee over. And Tony says, this must be some mistake. I must be at the wrong table. Like, yeah, just a French guy invited Angela and some woman invited you to the same restaurant. You're just at the wrong table.
Right.
So Renee says that they have a host, and the host was very clear that it was Mr. Micelli and Mrs. Bauer. And he asked to remain anonymous, but Angela hands him a 20, and he says it was Mr. Bauer.
Yes.
So now they think that it's Michael that is paying for this.
Which would be weird.
Yeah, like
Why?
Out of the blue, Michael would have just decided to send them to dinner together on Valentine's Day. So they're trying to figure out why. And Tony's like, well, maybe if we got together and we get married, then Michael wouldn't have to pay child support anymore. And she's like, no, child support would still happen if we were married. And Tony says, well, not if I adopted Johnathan. So it's almost as if Tony's thought about this a little bit before.
Right.
And so maybe Michael isn't in
his...
Maybe Michael isn't in Jonathan's life at all, if that would even be a consideration. Because for someone to really... A step-parent to adopt a child, the biological parent has to give up all parental rights. And then he wouldn't have to pay child support. But it would... I mean, they would obviously have to have no contact for that to be an option. So they're trying to figure, and, he's like, Angela thinks it's super sweet that he would consider adopting Johnathan.
Right.
And she's kind of getting sidetracked there. But then they're like, well, but we're not getting married. So Tony's kind of like offended, and he's saying, well, if Michael's paying for this, I'm not eating. So he's ready to leave. And as they're getting ready to go, they see something being set on fire in the background.
And thought that immediately is like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it looks really good.
They set things on fire at your table.
Flambe? What is that called? I don't even know.
Fajitas?
It's not fajitas.
Don't they make fajitas like that?
Well, yeah, yeah. But
I don't know.
They're not at a...
That's not in a Mexican
restaurant.
French
restaurant. It's probably some kind of steak or something.
Yeah, right.
I bet it's good. So,
filet that they sear for 20 seconds on each side.
Yeah. So they decide, well, if Michael wants to pay for this, then let's go ahead and eat.
Right, which is the right answer.
Yeah, but
they didn't know what really was happening.
They should have put a little more thought into it, a little more investigation. Yeah. So they order champagne, and Tony says, I don't want to see this bucket empty all night.
Right.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Maybe later we'll take a bath in it. Separately, of course. Right, yeah. So back at home, Mona and Sam are talking and eating chocolate while going through all their Valentine's
I know.
Day.
I thought that was a cute scene. Like they're just sitting on the couch eating chocolates.
Yeah. But Mona got 100 Valentine's Day cards. Why is she not out? It's Valentine's Day now.
Because, well...
We find out later, yes.
Right. She's 10:30. She goes out.
So they start talking, and they realize that Tony and Angela's plans sound very similar. So Johnathan comes downstairs, and he asks if Mom and Tony are home. And they're like, wait a minute. Why are you asking if Mom and Tony are home? And he's like, oh, no reason.
Like Mom or Tony.
Or anybody at Chez Renee.
I know, and then the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. So they figure out that Johnathan set them up. And he says that he gave the restaurant his mom's credit card. Mona's like, they won't take a credit card from an 8-year-old. And he says they will if you wrap it in a 20.
Yeah, but how did he get to the restaurant?
I know. I wondered
8.
that. I know, but when it's the 80s, maybe it's within walking distance. And Sam and Johnathan have already gone to Brooklyn by themselves. So,
all right.
I don't know. Is there...
I'm reading too much.
Is there a bus or something in Fairfield?
So the 8-year-old left the house by himself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure back then he was out playing all day. No one
Found
knew
a
where
way
we
to
were
get to the restaurant.
when we were 8, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, maybe a little older. But yeah.
Yeah, 8 seems young, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, but I'm guessing maybe he could walk
It's like
there.
80 wandering around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, there was a thing a few years ago that was it was from the 70s or the early 80s, and it was a test to see if your kid was ready to go to first grade. And on the test was like, they can say all their letters, they can count to 20, they can find their way home 5 blocks from their house.
Forget it.
I know. And I was thinking, like, now kids can, in kindergarten, they can count higher than 20. They know more than just the alphabet, but you could never just, like, leave a kid somewhere 5 blocks from home and expect them to find their way.
Find your way home.
Right.
If you're not home in a half hour, I'll come look for you.
I know. But, like, by 10, but my mom was a bit overprotective, but I wasn't allowed to go off the block for a while. But then after a certain age, like I walked to school by myself. We would stand out at the bus stop in pitch black by middle school.
Yeah, I did that.
The bus was so early.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just a different time. But yeah, and now Renee's gotten $40 out of them because he took 20 from Johnathan to take the credit card, and now he just took 20 from Angela to find out who it was.
And it's believable that Johnathan would have a 20 laying around, actually, because
he has all that money.
Swindles money from his family.
And it's also a cute parallel. It's like mother, like son, just slipping people 20s to get what you need. So now back at the restaurant, Tony and Angela are having a really good time. They're sitting there enjoying an after-dinner drink. Yeah. They're recounting everything they ate.
That's probably the brandy.
Yeah, that must be the 100-year-old brandy.
Yeah.
They're, going over everything they ate, which was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Lobster.
Veal, lobster.
Yeah.
Shrimp cocktails.
All sorts. Oh, chocolate mousse, raspberry tart.
I know, that was funny. She starts rattling off the
desserts. Yes. I love Angela. So
Cherries Jubilees.
So she tells Tony that she had a wonderful time, even if she didn't fall in love. And he's like, you didn't? And she says, well, I could spend the rest of my life with that chocolate mousse. But it is cute because they did have a nice time together, and they enjoy hanging out with one another. So, okay, they're like, it's time to go. They get up to leave. Oh, and he brings back the let's blow this pop stand.
I know, with the pop stand.
So Tony puts her wrap on and he makes a joke, your place or mine, as they're leaving. So Chez Renee's feeling good. He's like, oh, I made a nice little love match here.
Right, meanwhile.
Yeah. And Angela says, well, we shouldn't go home together because then they're going to know that we were out together. And Tony's like, well, we were out together. And she says, well, but I don't want the kids to get the wrong idea. And mother's always had it.
Yeah.
So
I know, that was funny.
Yeah. So they decide to go home separately. On the way out the door, they tell Renee to make sure the waiter takes 20%. And then Tony offers for Renee to also take 20% for himself. And then he makes his 100-year-old brandy joke.
I know, and then he claps his hands again.
And he's stomping on the floor.
It'd be so obnoxious to be hanging out with somebody who clapped and stomped every time they said something funny.
I know, it's another one of those things where, like, sitcom characters are funny to watch on TV, but would be terrible friends to have in real life.
Stop with the clapping.
So, Angela comes home. The kids and Mona are waiting for her to come in the door.
Yeah.
And Johnathan asks where her date is. So she's still going along with the story that she was with the Frenchman she met on Saturday and says, he had to go back to France. Goodbye. It was a great night. And,
Jean-Jacques?
Yeah, something like that. And Jonathan's confused. So he asks her, like, well, where's Tony? And she's like, why would I know where Tony is? So Tony comes in through the kitchen.
Strolling in through the kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even, like, really time their arrival.
Wait more than 45 seconds.
So do you think Tony drove the van to that French restaurant?
Yeah, I guess, because he went there by himself.
Or maybe you could walk there. I don't know. Okay, so
True.
then Tony comes in the back door.
Well, yeah, because Johnathan apparently walked there.
Right.
So
And he and Angela are pretending like this is the first time they've seen each other that evening. Like, oh, you look nice. You look nice. How was your... And Sam asks Tony, how was your date? And he says, oh, I've had better.
right.
So Mona knows what's going on. And she says, I'm sure you have.
Right. Another dig.
Right, of course. Now, Sam is wearing the robe again from Samantha's growing up.
I know. I like that they keep... I mean, I'm sure wardrobe was limited on this show, so they didn't have a choice, but...
Yeah, but no, it's cute continuity. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see when she's finally going to grow out of it, because it's going to have to be soon.
I have to be, yeah.
So Jonathan's like, wait a minute, but you were supposed to be together. So they're like, what?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, and he says, well, that's how I planned it. And so he tells them that he set up the date. And Angela says, you're Mr. Bauer? Where did you get the money? It was more than $300. And I looked that up. That's $712 today.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Holy crap.
That is a lot. So, sorry, Angela, you're getting that bill for dinner.
Wow.
So, Angela's pissed, and she's like, I want a good explanation. Oh, no, I'm sorry, wait. First, she says, where did you get the money? And then Mona's like, wait a minute, I want a good seat for this one.
And she scoots across the couch to get closer.
And Johnathan says, I used your credit card. And Tony's like, oh, I should have got a doggy bag.
That made me laugh, actually.
That's very Tony.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Should have got a doggy bag.
So Angela's angry because she just realized she's paying $712. And she's like, I want to know why you did this. And Johnathan says, I want you and Tony to get married. And now she can't be mad at him anymore.
Right.
So they're like, well, we're not getting married. And he says, well, you could. I mean, you're not married and he's not married. You like him. He likes you, even after he's seen you in your bathrobe.
No, which is funny.
I know. That's really cute. So they say, that's not really enough of a reason. And he asks, well, why do people get married? And they tell him, well, you have to love each other. And he says, you two love each other. I'm with Johnathan here. I mean, come on.
Johnathan sees it.
Right. He's like, you guys love each other, don't you? And they kind of get like this uncomfortable look like, okay, now we have to explain this to him. So they say, there's the way you love your family and the way you love your snake. And Mona chimes in with, and the way you love your housekeeper.
That's right.
Plus, like, this probably isn't that far-fetched for Johnathan because he's probably heard of other people in the neighborhood who have, quote-unquote, fallen in love with their housekeeper.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure.
So, once again, Mona always decides to peace out when things get difficult. And she's like, well, I gotta go because my night's just starting.
I know. It's like...
Yeah.
What would we determined it's about 10:30 and Mona's going out? I mean,
probably
come on.
Because earlier they said it was 10 o'clock when she and Samantha were on the couch.
Mona's acting like she's 24.
Right.
Heading out at 10:30.
So Angela sits Johnathan down and she says, Tony and I love each other, but like friends, not married people. Mm-hmm. And he says, what's the difference? And Samantha says, sex.
I know. I was like kind of thrown. I was like, what? So I don't remember this episode. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, okay. I'm trying to think. What is happening? Are you crumpling paper?
No, I'm my page, the next page.
So on a family sitcom like this, I mean, they don't really make family sitcoms like this that much anymore. Unless we're talking about like the Disney Channel or something, in which case a child would never say that on TV.
Right.
But I guess if you're thinking of something more along the lines of like Young Sheldon or Modern Family, then you would see a kid say something like that. So I think just the overall like sitcom has changed and gone in different directions as far as like this style versus the style that we have now. But yeah, I did think it was a little shocking for what is considered a family show to have the kids talking about sex like that. And Tony looks kind of pissed at Samantha that she said that.
I know. Yeah, it's like, what?
And then Johnathan has the best line of the entire episode, which is, oh, is that all? Why don't you two just do that already and get it over
anyway.
Once again, I'm still with Johnathan here. I'm on your side, buddy. So, and Sam says, yeah, why don't you?
I know.
Now, this is the first
very
time
comfortable.
that we've really seen either of the kids express that they would want the two of them to get together. Mm-hmm. And then it was interesting to see Sam chime in on that because we haven't really gotten her perspective on this yet at this point. And I feel like we don't for a long time. So, yeah, it was just kind of...
It's just kind of whatever to her.
Yeah. I think probably at that point she figured, like, Angela Bauer's way out of my dad's league, and my dad's just kind of sleeping with whoever he can find on a weekly basis, so this would never happen anyway. So Tony's like, go to bed. So she says, good night, Dad. Good night, Mom.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was really cute. So
and then Tony gets not frustrated, but like, get out of here.
Yeah. So Angela wants to know, like, what is this about? And he says, I don't want Tony to go away. And Tony's like, well, why? Where am I going? And he's like, well, you could get another job and move, or your brother could become the president of Brooklyn.
I know, which is great. Because that's really, that didn't realize that joke was being set up so early.
Right, yes.
The president of Brooklyn.
So funny. So Tony says he's very confused by the president of Brooklyn. But he says, I can't promise that I'm always going to live here. But one thing that will never change is that we're best buddies. And I'll always be here for you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's that's a lot for him to promise this kid. Especially when his own father hasn't done that.
Right, his own father abandoned him.
Yeah, and at this point he is, they are friends, but he is their housekeeper, and who's to say he wouldn't get a job in like another state? But I guess he's committing to this kid that he's always going to be in his life regardless.
Yeah.
But that's also what makes the stakes so high for them if they were to decide to try a relationship, because if it doesn't work out and they don't ever want to see each other again. Yeah,
then Jonathan's never going to see him again.
Right. Or it's just going to be another uncomfortable situation where, he's just having a relationship with Tony that's outside of Angela.
Yeah.
Are the cats fighting?
Yeah, under the tree.
Oh, great.
Destroying
and now there's a helicopter.
I know. Doozy. A special, and a very special Who's the Boss podcast.
So, he promises that he's going to be there for Johnathan no matter what. And Johnathan seems okay with that, so they're all happy. And then he says, but do you think someday you and Mom will change your mind and have sex anyway?
I know. I didn't expect that either. That was great.
Oh, so funny.
Another great line.
And then, you wonder for the actor. I don't know if anyone has ever asked Danny Pintauro this, or if he would even remember this far back. But, to have the kids say the lines, how much of that do they explain to the child?
Yeah, I don't know. Or just tell them this is what you need to say. Right.
Or were kids just more aware of, what sex was then? Our kids are pretty aware, only because, I don't know. I don't sugarcoat things, but...
Yeah.
But I just think, that had to have been, an awkward conversation to be like, okay, we're going to have your kids say these lines. Does he understand what he's going to be saying?
I don't know. That's an interesting question for an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Being an 8-year-old.
But I also think it's funny, in movies where they have little kids swearing. What do they say to the kid? Oh, man, Avi would love that.
Oh, gosh.
That would be the best day of her life if she just got to swear.
Swear words can roll off that kid's tongue so easily. I shouldn't have said that, I guess.
Oh, no, I don't care. It's so true. Okay, so... Then that night, now what should have been the tag to this episode is the resolution to the golf game. So
I know.
We don't know if they ever won.
About that.
How they did.
They've done that once before in the show where they just trail off with something and they don't revisit it. And I cannot think of a specific episode where it happened.
Well, I had the complaint about the Thanksgiving episode where at the beginning Mona sets up that she slashed the tires on Angela's car, and then that goes nowhere.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Okay. But yeah.
And you're thinking, how's that going to be resolved? And then scene over.
Most likely they may have had, I guess the golf portion of this is not really the point of the episode. But
sorry, it's not the focus.
it still could have at least been the tag or something.
But there's usually like two stories kind of
right going at the same
intertwining.
time, right? And then they kind of meet up. But
Yeah, they didn't. No more golf story.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they won. They wore their little outfits.
Okay. Yeah,
Angela
the
got
little
some good pictures.
mustard sweatshirt, mustard vest.
Yes, Samantha saw Chad McCann there and then pretended she didn't know Tony and Johnathan. It was a good time. So that night, instead, the tag is Angela comes downstairs in her bathrobe. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to say I don't like this tag because I do. It's very cute.
Yeah, it is. It is. The tag was fine.
Yeah. And so she doesn't feel well because of all the food that she ate.
Right.
When she goes into the kitchen, Tony's already sitting at the table opening an Alka-Seltzer into a glass. And she grabs a glass and then he splits it with her.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there are a couple things here. One, that looks like real Alka-Seltzer. I mean, They only take like one sip, so probably wouldn't matter. It's not like they had to drink it a lot. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that they would have actually used real Alka-Seltzer. But I don't think, what else could you use that's really going to fizz like that?
No, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
But the other thing is he made Alka-Seltzer for himself and then he split it with her. So it's not that powerful.
Well, but also he put way too much water. I take a lot of Alka-Seltzer.
Yes, I know. You're right. It's only 4 ounces.
He put way too, yeah.
It's about really 8 ounces for one.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But whatever. Maybe they didn't feel that bad. And it's a TV show. But yes, I love finding little details like that.
But the other thing is, did Alka-Seltzer taste terrible then? Because they make the worst face.
They do.
I'm sorry. I skipped ahead to
it's fine.
Past the most important part of the scene.
But yeah, I don't know because
they make the worst face. I'm like, I don't think
Alka-Seltzer's
Alka-Seltzer's
gotten
that
better
bad.
now. Like it's got like a little lemon taste to it, I think. Or I've just gotten used to it.
I have no problem. I take it once in a while too.
Yeah, I like it. It helps my headaches too.
It is. It's good. I mix it up.
Okay, so yes, but the cute part is that they're recounting all of the things that they ate again, but this time it doesn't sound good anymore. It sounds awful. And he says, well, boss, happy Valentine's Day. And they clink glasses, and he says, you do kind of look cute in that bathrobe.
Yeah, I know. And it's like you wonder if he's like joking or he means it.
Yeah, I mean, he probably definitely, well, I mean, I think he means it,
no,
but he
I
is
know,
joking because they're not at the point yet where they're going to be honest about what they feel for each other.
Right.
But like at this point, I feel like he has to have somewhat of a crush on her. And when we get to the end of season 2, I'm going to play a clip as to why Tony Danza thinks that Tony Micelli never made a move earlier, which is a good one.
Oh, good.
Okay, so
That's exciting.
I'll do rating first this time. I'm going to give this episode a 7.
Okay.
I thought it was good. Cute parts of the restaurant, the storyline. I love that it was a Johnathan storyline a bit because those become few and far between as we go on here.
And he had a lot of lines.
He did. And like he wasn't totally relaxed, but it worked, I think, with his like cuteness and the way he almost looked a little scared when he was talking to them. Because like a lot of the complaints about Johnathan is that he was a bit stiff. And I do see that in this episode, but I think it works for what's happening anyway. But yeah, so I gave it a 7.
Yeah, okay.
I would have given it a 7.5 if they had resolved the golf.
Yeah, I would have given it a 9. I'd have seen some golf shots. Tony trying to hit a golf ball. I'm the same. I gave it the same 7.
Nice.
Yeah, it had good Johnathan moments. The restaurant scenes were good. And then the scene with the two of them, with Mona and Sam sitting on the couch eating chocolate, I thought was good.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Like that they, this is what they're doing. They're just hanging out, even though Mona's going out. But yeah, overall, a 7.
Yeah. Anytime there's any kind of relationship brought up also, I tend to like those better. But I think looking back at Who's the Boss now as an adult, like it is a show about a family, but if you really look at it, it's really just kind of a show about a family, but the main part and the heart of the show is really the romance and what's going on between Tony and Angela.
Yeah.
So I really like when the episodes kind of move that along a bit.
And this one sure did that.
Yeah.
Who's the boss around here? Me? Or my mother? Or maybe it's you!
So I picked Johnathan, although it was a toss-up for me. But I had picked Johnathan, and the reason why is because he was kind of running things this whole episode. He somehow ordered these tremendous thing of flowers. He somehow was able to write poems and make it look like an adult's handwriting.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I know. Like, how did he do that, right? So, without looking, I mean, imagine getting that card. You're like, I'm not going to meet this person.
Right.
It's a serial killer.
If our 8-year-old wrote a letter to either of us, we would know immediately that it was her handwriting.
But the handwriting and probably the poem, if you think about it, they were actually pretty good for an 8-year-old.
That is a really
even
good
though
point.
they're saying they were horrible.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, how would you get that letter? I mean,
That's funny.
And then and the other thing about all of that is, the fact that he was able to get to the restaurant and whatever. But I mean, he organized the whole thing and he got them together, and I think maybe he brought Tony and Angela a little bit closer.
Yeah, like maybe put that in their heads a little more than it would have been there
Right,
before.
like maybe you're looking at each other a little bit differently.
Right. But so you said it was a toss-up.
I was going to make it a tie, and it would be Tony and Angela.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Like they kind of, but I don't know, Jonathan's storyline beat that out to me.
Yeah, I went with Johnathan for the same reason, even though I didn't think about the fact at all about him being able to write the poems.
It's insane.
And them not know it was his handwriting and ordering the flowers and all of that. But
he probably can barely write in the lines.
Maybe kids were maybe just way more advanced. He can find his way home from 5 blocks away, It was a different world back then. They were moving and shaking. Sure. Yeah, but I went with Johnathan also. And I didn't think about the fact that he could have maybe, pushed them a little bit to think about the idea of being together instead of, it doesn't happen obviously for a long time, but maybe he did kind of put the little thought in their minds some more.
In Jonathan's eyes, he failed.
Oh, no. Don't worry, Johnathan. In 5 years.
It happens.
I mean, maybe. We're still not even really sure if it happened or not, but maybe. Maybe they're together. Who knows? We'll find out on the reboot. Fingers crossed. Okay, so you can reach us at Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram or Who's the Boss Pod 1 on Twitter. We also have a Facebook page, the Who's the Boss Podcast on Facebook. Or you can go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast. And there you can leave us a voice message.
We laugh.
If you want to. And we also need more songs for the end. But tonight we're going to play, this is Judith Light singing an Alanis Morissette cover live. And it was a song that her character on Transparent sang, Shelley Pfefferman.
Shelley Pfefferman.
Yes, but this is not the actual performance from the show. It's a live version. But if you haven't seen Transparent, we never finished that show, did we?
No, but you showed me the end.
Yeah, so I don't know, a lot of stuff happened, and Jeffrey Tambor was no longer part of the show. He will be on an episode of Who's the Boss too. Did you know that?
I think I did.
Yeah.
I just know he was on every single 80s sitcom. Everything. I mean, he was on everything.
Yeah. But if you haven't seen the musical finale of Transparent and you also think that Judith Light is a queen, you should definitely watch it because she is fantastic in that final episode. So I actually never watched we watched whatever seasons we watched together, and then I just watched the finale because I was like, I can probably figure out what happened. And it was bizarre and insane just as much as the rest of the show was, but she is fabulous. So enjoy. Bye.
See ya.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and tell all your friends and give you a big pat on the back.
But I'm grounded. I'm sane, but I'm overwhelmed. I'm lost, but I'm hopeful. Baby, what it all comes down to is that everything's gonna be fine, fine, fine. 'Cause I got one other one is given a high five.